Okay, I sat down to make a video about toxic positivity, and that was the plan. The outline was locked in, and I swear it would have looked and sounded very professional. For once, I was being responsible to get things done on time. Until I started voice recording it, and I realized, wait, not actually mad about toxic positivity. What I'm mad about is what toxic positivity replaced. Because there's a word we used to use for people who defend their favorite game, their favorite console, their favorite franchise, through all the bugs, through all the broken promises, prices going from $60 to $70 to even $80 a game. We used to call them Uber fans or fanboys, and that name was way more honest. Here's the thing about toxic positivity, it's a therapy term. It sounds like something you hear at a corporate team building workshop between the trust falls and the fruit water. And in that context, sure, it's valid conversation. In gaming, that language handed corporations a scapegoat, an ability for them to write off what we had to say against them as the rants of a madman instead of the defense of super loyal fans of the hobby. You see the difference? Uber fans was ours. We made that phrase, we made that word. It meant something specific. This person will not criticize their favorite thing, no matter what you show them. The evidence does not matter, the logic does not matter, and they have decided what they will believe. And the reason that word mattered, the reason people used it, is because we watched what happened when developers figured out those people existed. And spoiler guys, it was not great for the rest of us. Give me a second to go on a tangent. So, there's a scene in Clerks 2 where Randall, the Star Wars guy, he's a committed Star Wars guy mind you, goes after Lord of the Rings in front of a customer and worker who just happened to be fanboys. And when I say he goes after it, I mean he goes after it with such intensity, such commitment, such complete absence of social awareness that the customer physically throws up. And he does not stop. He finishes the argument. And that's the scene. A man who cares so much about the thing he loves that his criticism of the competing thing makes someone sick. And he decides the argument is still worth finishing. He decides to point out the flaws in the other thing, while at the same time, the customer and coworker were trying to do the same to him. Now, I'm not telling you to make anyone vomit, but look at what Randall is not doing in that scene. He's not hedging his bets. He's not saying, well, Lord of the Rings has its merits. He's not softening the take because those in the room are comfortable. He's not checking whether his opinion is welcome before he gives it. He has a position. He knows why he has it. And he is saying it out loud, regardless of who is standing there. And that's what loving something looks like. You don't love something by quietly accepting everything around it. You love it by being willing to hold the line on why it's better, why the alternative falls short, why it matters to you specifically, even when the person next to you would rather you didn't. Before you attack me saying this sounds just like being a fanboy, well, it is being a fanboy, and you're not wrong. Just let me cook for a minute and see if I can sway you over a bit. Because the console wars were full of people like Randall. And I know that sounds like an insult, but stay with me. Hopefully by the end of this, you will see Randall as the hero here. The console wars were stupid. Embarrassingly so, and I mean that with complete affection. PlayStation kids, the Sony ponies versus the Xbox kids versus the PC Master Race guys who never once in their lives have been outside versus the Nintendrones who were technically right about some things but made absolutely sure to be smug as shit about it when they were. And I know a Nintendo person. Personally, he's a friend. He's a good guy. Him and his son both are obsessed with Nintendo, and it don't matter who they sue, what bad business practices they implement, or what small channels they shut down. They will defend Nintendo to the death. And if you've ever seen a Harmon Smith take, and if you haven't, I envy you, I have just heard of him this year, and already my brain cells are dying. Those of you who have, though, understand what I mean when I say there are people out there who will perform Olympic-level mental gymnastics to defend a company that just charged you $80 for a game that was $40 on the Wii U. The obstacle course this man runs, the hoops he jumps through to justify that company I have watched arguments that require more faith than any religion in the world to follow, and a strong fart could blow them over out of this man's mouth. And here's the maddening part. That energy used to be directed at Nintendo, at Sony, at Microsoft, from the outside. When Xbox pushed always online DRM in 2013, the PlayStation community did not stay quiet. They did not say, well, I'm sure they have their reasons. They made a video of two people handing each other a disc to share games and uploaded it to the internet, and the internet lost its mind. Microsoft reversed the policy. That is the entire case study. Fans fought, the developer flinched, it was super effective, and the product got better. But the moment those same fans tuned inward, started defending their own platform the way they used to attack everyone else's, the pressure system broke. Developers figured out that the fans would absorb the backlash for them, and the prices started climbing, and here we are. You want to know what killed gaming accountability? It wasn't the critics, it's not the journalists. It was the guy who would rather spend 40 minutes explaining why $80 is reasonable, rather than spend 30 seconds going, no, that's too much, knock it off. Let me make this concrete. In 2020, Demon's Souls launched at $70, one of the first major modern AAA titles to hit that price point. People were upset, some people argued about it, and then everyone kept buying games at $70. There are still countless videos made today about game prices. In 2025, Nintendo released Mario Kart World at $80. $80, guys, for a Mario Kart game. And within about 48 hours, there were Nintendo fans in every comment section explaining at length why this was actually reasonable. All very thoughtful responses, very detailed and very fucking wrong. You see the pattern? Nobody said no. Nobody said no loud enough because the Uber fans absorbed the backlash enough for everything else. Developers are not dumb. They are watching this in real time. Every time a price hike lands, the fanboys do the PR work for free and the ceiling moves up. You are not protecting the thing you love. You're pricing out the next person who would have loved it. You're stopping a next generation from being able to even try to love what you love. Let's go ahead and break down some genres, and we'll start with shooters. Here's the thing about Call of Duty nobody wants to say out loud anymore. There was a time when the game had a story worth playing. Modern Warfare 1 and 2, the Halo trilogy, and Titanfall all happen to be master classes in game campaign design. And now, where are they? Shooters used to give you a reason to care. And somewhere along the way, the Uber fans decided, the story doesn't matter. Single player campaigns were a waste of development money. And the only thing that counted, or that people cared about, was their kill-death ratio. And whatever the current battle pass rotation was. Those fans spoke loudest and the developers listened. And now half of these games ship with campaigns as an afterthought, if they ship with one at all. You want to talk about community-driven regression? That's it, right there. Alright, next up would be Souls-likes. And okay, get good. Everyone's least favorite phrase in gaming. And here's where I'm going to be a little fairer to the Souls-like community. And I say this as someone who makes content in the space. Get good is technically not wrong, so put your pitchforks down. These games are about pattern recognition. There are mechanics to learn. There is a skill floor. The problem is no one explains it. Get good without the here's how is just a door slam. But if you've ever been in a Souls community on a good day, someone who actually cares will tell you. Watch the enemy animations, roll through that attack, not away from it. This boss has a specific tell before the grab. And that's coaching. That is get good doing a job it was supposed to do. The Uber fans broke it by making get good a conversation ender instead of a conversation starter. Took something that could have been a tutorial and turned it into a wall. And then we have one of the worst defenders. We've got the gachas. And every gacha game on the internet is having the same three arguments in a permanent loop. Argument 1 is, my game has a story, a real story, and you just don't understand it. Argument 2 is, Oh, guys, come on. The monetization isn't predatory. If you're, FTP smart about it, you'll be great. And argument 3 is, oh, that's not the game's fault. And the story argument is the most interesting one because sometimes they're right. Some gacha games do have genuinely good writing, but the Fanboys use "it has a story" as a blanket defense against any monetization criticism, as if a good narrative gives a publisher a pass on a 0.6 pull rate. They use the monetization isn't predatory if you're FTP smart about it to also defend against this, but let's face it, when you're trying to get a character, most people, and this is how these games survive, will spend the money on it. Those two things are not related, but I can say that the writing is great and the monetization is designed to exploit compulsive behavior. Both are true at the same time in the same sentence, and it's not hard. Well, we've done specific genres, so let's break down games in those genres. And Dark Souls as well. The community built its identity around difficulty, which again, fair. That's the game, but what that culture created was a space where legitimate design criticisms got buried the second they were raised. Hitbox issues that have been present for years, specific bosses that aren't hard in an interesting way, just frustrating in a cheap way, areas that even longtime fans privately admit are rough. Those conversations got drowned out, and FromSoft learned they didn't have to address them. And here's the thing I need you to sit with for a second. By the end of this section, the Souls community is going to be the most welcoming on this list. Let that sit for a second and we'll come back to it. League of Legends is what people associate with MOBAs. It's like the granddaddy of MOBAs, if you will. And League's uber fan problem isn't that they defend the game from criticism, it's that they made the game structurally impossible to enter. 160 plus champions, meta knowledge that shifts every 2 weeks, role specific mechanics that take hundreds of hours to understand at a basic level, and a veteran player base that responds to any new player's questions with a level of condescension usually reserved to people who show up wearing a shit-covered suit to a black tie event. Just learn the game is the League equivalent of get good, except at least in Souls, someone might explain the role timing. In League, you are more likely to get flamed in chat, reported for having a bad game in your first month, than you are to actually get any good guidance. The Uber fans gatekeep so hard they built a moat around their game. Riot's solution was to just keep adding champions and cosmetics, and nobody in the community is loud enough to matter told them that this was wrong. And the new player experience has been in critical condition for years because of it. Then we've got one that I personally keep getting yelled at for, and it's Nike. Shift-Up is genuinely talented. The visual design alone is doing work most studios would kill for, and the monetization has had problems since launch. And somehow, if you bring that up in the community, you will find someone within 3 replies who will walk you through exactly why pull rates are fair and reasonable and actually generous if you understand the pity system, and they will not convince you, but they are committed. I respect the commitment. I do not respect your argument. And we move on to Limbus Company, and I love this game. Let me clear that up before I say the rest of this. The Limbus Company Uber fan community has decided collectively, as a group, that you are not allowed to have an opinion on this game unless you have read every source book each Sinner's character draws from, read both Project Moon supplementary books, and played Lobotomy Corporation and Library of Ruina to completion. Now, this is not the whole fandom, but those of you watching at least know one of these guys. And look, I get it. The lore is dense. The connections that the characters make and the links to other works are truly genius. And the payoff for doing the homework allows it all to hit harder. But here's my actual take, and you can yell at me in the comments section because I know you guys are going to disagree with me. If a game requires that much external material to be enjoyable, then the game has a design problem, full stop. A good game gives you what you need to care about the world inside the game. This is why Destiny had so many arguments against it, because you had to go to websites to figure out what the story was. References to outside materials should be bonuses, not entry requirements. The moment that Uber fans are telling newcomers to go play 2 other games, read multiple books before they're allowed an opinion, that's not depth, guys. That's a community gatekeeping a product that failed to be self-contained enough to stand on its own for new players. But these people won't care what I have to say, for I am someone who did not do all of that homework. The game is good, but you need to do that homework before you can have an opinion. Should be criticism of the game, not a bar for fans to get into it. Now, I told you the Souls community was going to end up being the most welcoming on this list at night. It's a little sad, isn't it? The community famous for "this game will end you" is comparatively healthy next to the league's gatekeeping and Gacha's defense squad and Limbus's community handing out a mandatory reading list. The Dark Souls bar to overcome is so low, it's underground. So what do we actually do? And I'm going to be straight with you guys. I'm not going to tell you to go play your backlog. I'm not going to tell you to go retro, and I'm definitely not going to tell you not to pre-order. You've heard that. You know that. It has been said by every gaming commenter with a microphone and an opinion since, I don't know, around 2014. Here's what I'm going to actually say, guys. Remember Randall? Not the lesson about passion, the other part. The part where he's so specific, so relentless, and so completely unwilling to soften the take that the person across from him physically cannot take it anymore and has to leave the conversation. That is the job. We are Randall. The company has to be the customer. And our job is to be so consistently, specifically, uncomfortably loud about every price hike, every anti-consumer decision, every time they let Uber fans do their PR for free, that they get sick, that they cannot sit across from the community anymore without flinching, that the cost of ignoring us becomes higher than the cost of fixing the issues. That is how Microsoft reversed the always online DRM. Not by us saying we were vaguely disappointed, specific, sustained, impossible to ignore pressure from people who knew exactly what they were talking about and refused to shut up about it. So be specific. This game is bad is not accountability. The checkpoint system punishes you for bad AI pathfinding that the developer has acknowledged and not patched for 14 months. That is accountability. It's something we can spam at the developers on Twitter/X and possibly get a change to. Stop doing free PR for companies that haven't earned it. Randall didn't argue for free, he argued on company time. He argued passionately because he was right. Lord of the Rings is technically 3 movies about people walking. There's a difference. But don't just be a dick to bad games. Reward games that get it right, guys. Loudly, publicly, with the same energy. Because the goal isn't to burn everything to the ground. The goal is to make bad decisions uncomfortable enough that good ones become the easier path. What I'm saying is we need to bring shame back to these companies. In a world full of fanboys handing out free passes, be the one guy that makes them throw up. Argue specifically about things that matter. Finish the argument even when the room isn't comfortable. That's honestly how I believe we fix gaming. Stop being a bunch of pussies and sound off on the stupid shit that the gaming companies keep hitting us with. If this hits different from what you were expecting, then subscribe, alright? Hit the like button, the notification bell, all that good shit. I'll be here. And like always, guys, be good to each other. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.